our spiritual calling. That is what we'll be talking about tonight. Our spiritual calling. But we are going to be talking more about our tradition. How our spiritual calling has something to do with our tradition. If you are an African, I believe we all have traditions. Despite the incoming of Christianity, we all have our traditions, and no matter what, tradition can never be abolished. Tradition can never be abolished, whether we believe it or not. Even if you are a born-again Christian, whether you believe it or not, tradition can never be abolished. We still uphold our traditions. We still believe in them, even though we don't believe in all of them, but there are some practices that we still believe in. If you like, become the greatest Christian in the world, except you are not a human being. If you are a human being and you are coming from any part of the world, any community, there is a tradition that your community practices. There is something that they believe in. There is something they uphold, something that is so dear to them. So whether you believe in that thing or not, it is still existing and will continue to exist. So no amount of preaching as Christians will abolish tradition. So our tonight's topic is going to be looking towards that side. That is the calling towards that side. When we talk about spiritual calling is what you can do spiritually. Remember, when we talk about this calling is not all about having that spiritual power to perform wonders. It's not all about that. There are a lot of callings, a lot of things that needs to be done, a lot of work. So whenever we talk about calling, it's not about you becoming a seer, becoming a prophet or a prophetess, becoming a miracle worker. It's not all about that. There are a lot of work to be done in the vineyard. And when you are called, try and know where you are called. Try and know who called you. Try and know what you are supposed to do. So I'm going to be looking at some of us who are called traditionally, but they don't want to answer their calling because it is in the traditional way, because it has a lot to do with the traditions of our land. And most of the times, this set of people are Christians. I'm using Christianity as example whenever I'm talking because I am a Christian. I cannot use Islam because I'm not Muslim. So I'm talking about Christianity. So many of us who are Christians, born into a Christian home, raised by Christian parents, still practicing Christianity, most of the time you are called and you notice that your calling is going towards that traditional way. We don't want it. Some of us, when they notice that their calling is pushing them towards that traditional path, whenever they are praying, you will hear them casting and binding, rejecting it. It is not by that casting and binding. That casting and binding, I'm sorry to tell you this, will not help you. If you are called to answer your call the traditional way, if you like, cast and bind for ages. I'm going to tell you what a lot of us face when you refuse to answer your call. You know, our major problem in life is not about that calling. Our major problem in life is what people will say when you answer your call. Yeah, because you want to please people instead of pleasing God that called you. Your major concern is to please people. You want to know what people are thinking. You want to know what people will say. And another problem we are facing is most of the times whenever we hear the word tradition, we believe and we associate tradition with evil. That is our major problem. Whenever we hear that somebody is called traditionally, the first thing that comes to our mind is evil. Evil practices, killing people with charms, with juju, sending a lot of illnesses to people. That is our major problem, and that is why when you see someone who is called traditionally, they'll keep on rejecting it, casting and binding. If you do not answer your call in that traditional way, who do you want to answer that call for you? And let me tell us, if you are called, not just in traditional way, even in the Christian way, in any way, if you are called spiritually, and you do not want to answer that call, because that is not what you want everybody to see you with microphone and Bible, and then people will tell you that it is God that called you. So when God calls you and channels you into using roots and herbs to heal people, you will feel sad. You won't want to answer that call. Let me tell us, when you refuse to answer your call, if you doubt this, I want you to make inquiry. I want you to ask, make a research, go around, ask people who are spiritually gifted, people who are called but refuse to answer their call because that is not what they want. They wanted to be a seer, or they want to be a prophet or a prophetess, and then God decides to push them into using nature, and they refuse to answer that call. They refuse to do it because they want to know what people will say. If you refuse to answer your call, you know, whenever we talk about refusing to answer the call, or people always think that when you refuse to answer your call, it means you are going to die immediately. Never. That God that called you will not allow you to just die like that. No. Because you must definitely answer it. If you like, get to the age of 80, 90 years. When you get to that 90 years, if it's time for you to do it, you must do it. But the only thing that will happen to you is that your life will just turn upside down. Your life will just become a shamble. You will not be able to do anything in life. Even the most little problem you cannot handle. You will not be able to handle it. Why? The power to handle such problems lies with you, but you have chosen to bury it so that people will not see you as someone who is deviating from what every other person believes in or practices. When you are called and you refuse to answer that call, you will have problems. Not just one problem, but you will continue to have problems. And this problem, you will see it mainly in families. Whenever someone in a family, a child, rises and notices that he or she is called the traditional way, the parents do not find it funny if they are from Christian homes. The parents are always the major stumbling blocks for these children. They will not want to support their child because of the fear of what people will say, that their child is now deviating from Christianity. Christianity is not the only way we serve God. It is not the only way we serve God. It is not only Christians that will be judged on the last day. It is not only Christians that will go to heaven. There are so many religions and so many beliefs. God will judge everybody according to your own practice and your own belief. A lot of parents do make this mistake. You have noticed your child's calling. You have noticed where your child is being channeled to. What you need to do is to set a moral standard for your child. Show your child the right path. Teach your child the right thing to do, to always be on the truthful side, never to deviate from that. But no, we prefer stopping that child entirely. Stopping the child entirely from answering that call. A lot of parents are stumbling blocks to their children's future without knowing it. Without knowing it. Your lifestyle, your utterances, how you handle the child and everything that concerns the child can be a stumbling block to the future of that child. But you, the parents, might not know this. And to you, you are doing something good for the child. You are trying to secure the child's future. Meanwhile, you are dimming that child's light. Our callings are not only for Christians. Our callings are not only pushing us towards the Christianity side. Our callings are not only being called to be seers and prophets and prophetess and healers and miracle workers. No. Majority of us are called towards that traditional side. If we have evil people, that traditional side, we equally have evil people in the Christendom. It's a two-way thing. It runs both sides. What we are trying to do is to look at the positive side of everything in life. So many of us who are called the traditional way to be healers, to be native doctors, to be custodians of customs and traditions, we don't want it because that family is well known to be a Christian family. And then you rise up one day and you are telling everybody that you are asked to do this, you are asked to do that in the traditional way. That is where our problem starts. So my reason for coming up this life is to teach us about this problem. I'm going to tell us a little story that prompted me into sharing this topic with you. I was in my place of work one day. I was working and with my colleagues, we were all chatting. I was actually busy. I wasn't joining in that discussion, but I was listening to what they were saying. And one of my colleagues was telling the rest about her lifestyle in her home, about her child, and they were asking her about her child, and she was telling them how wonderful the child is in school and this and that. And all of a sudden, God just decided to make me pay attention to that discussion. And while I was busy writing, I was actually listening to what she was saying. And God decided to open my spiritual mind. When the child was brought up and she was telling everybody how brilliant the child was in school, I wasn't actually seeing that brilliant child that she was talking about. God decided to open my eyes spiritually, and I started seeing something in her husband's home, in her husband's compound, that has to do with the child. And so someone called her and asked her, since this child is your only son, would you, if this boy decides to become maybe a doctor or a priest or whatever in future, what will you do? She was so happy. She was rejoicing that she wants the child to be a doctor. But she doesn't want the child to be a priest or whatever. God forbid this and that. And that was when God opened my eyes, and I started seeing the problem in her husband's compound. And what was the problem? The problem was Ofo. If you are an Igbo person, an Igbo man or an Igbo woman, you will know what an Ofo is. In Igbo land, Ofo is the symbol of authority in Igbo land. It's a carved tree, just a staff of authority. That's what it is in Igbo land, which is being held by elderly people, more especially the first-born male child of the family or of that lineage. They are the ones that holds the Ofo of that lineage. And Ofo is being passed down from generation to generation to mainly the first-born male child of that family. And I saw that the Ofo of that lineage was missing. It has been missing. That was what I saw. And I saw that this lady's husband was supposed to be the custodian of that Ofo. But this man refused because he is a Christian. He refused to hold that Ofo, refused to become the custodian of that Ofo. And so the authority was passed down to his son, that only child. The authority was passed down spiritually to that child. Who passed down that authority? It wasn't the community, it wasn't the people, but the ancestors of that family chose that boy to be the custodian of that Ofo. This boy that I'm talking about is around the age of 9, 10, if I am correct, still a little boy who doesn't know anything about tradition, not to talk of the Ofo. But that was what I was seeing in her husband's compound. And I saw the problem that the husband is passing through for years. And that problem still runs in their family. This lady is equally suffering because of that problem. She's been married into the family. She knows nothing about what is going on. But she is partaking in that punishment because she's married to that man. So what I did was I had to call her attention. And I told her to stop rejecting all these things you are rejecting and saying, God forbid, over my child. You don't know this child's future. So she turned and looked at me and said, what do you know? Then I started telling her about the husband's family. I told her to go home. Ask your husband. Tell your husband everything I've said so far and ask him questions. And he is going to tell you. And I told her, if you do not want this boy to be the custodian of the offer, you are not going to lose this boy. This boy is not going to die, but you will regret ever having this boy as your son. You do not know this boy's future. I told her all you need to do is to pray that God directs this boy. Holding the offer of the family doesn't mean that you are a native doctor. It doesn't mean that you are a native doctor. You are just the custodian. That offer is the symbol of authority, and it is only those who are pure that are entitled to hold the offer. The boy is still innocent, and that was why the ancestors chose him to be the custodian of that offer. And while she was asking me questions, how do you know about this? God decided to open my eyes the more. And I saw her husband's village, and I saw the shrine in their village, an ancient shrine. That's what I will call it. And I don't know if it's a shrine or what, but that's what I saw. It looks like an ancient shrine. And that offer was hidden far deep in that place. And that place, no one has gone there for a very, very long time. As a matter of fact, no one knows where that place is. But the only person that can tell where that place is the boy. The boy is the only person that can tell where the place is. So when I told her this, she told me that she's going to ask the husband. She had to go out and make some phone calls, and she came back. She sat down beside me, and she confirmed every information that I gave her. And she told me that the husband told her that the offer has been missing a long time ago. A woman was holding the offer. And after some time, the offer got missing. The woman couldn't say where the offer was. She said that some charismatic people came to their village and prayed. And after the prayers, the charismatics took the offer. And I told her it's not true. The woman is actually lying to you people. From what I saw, the charismatic people did not take any offer. The woman brought in a god, or what should I say, a spirit that is totally different from the spirit that has been governing that lineage. And that was the reason why the offer got missed. The offer got lost. I told her to go home, have a deep conversation with your husband. She went home, and the following day she came to work, and she told me that they had a deep conversation to the extent that they involved their father-in-law, her father-in-law, the man's father. And the man's father told them that the offer was handed down to him, but he refused because he's a Christian. The offer was handed down to his son. The son refused because of Christianity. Now the offer has been handed down to the son, and they are still rejecting it on behalf of this boy. I told her, you do not know what this boy will be in future. This boy can grow up and disagree with all of you and will choose to hold that offer. And I asked her, look at your husband's family and tell me the truth. Is everything going well for you people? And she said no. From the father down to everybody, they are all suffering. All suffering, like walking like an elephant, eating like an ant. Most of the times not even eating, not even getting anything. And then the husband behaving like someone who is going mental. And I told her, it is not anything, it is because of the offer. He refused to be the custodian. He is now refusing it on behalf of his son. You want the son to become a reverend father. You want the son to become a pastor. Meanwhile, That is not where this boy is called, because the boy that I was seeing spiritually, I didn't see anything that has to do with him becoming a pastor or a reverend father. I just saw the custodian of their tradition. That was what I saw. That's the reason why I decided to come up live. Whatever you want for yourself, let it be for yourself. You know where we are making mistakes. So many families are suffering from intergenerational problem. Why? Because of what our ancestors did. Your ancestors made a promise to certain gods, to certain deities, and involved their children. If you want to speak, speak for yourself. You do not know what your child will become in future. The only thing you need to do is to show that child the right path. Do not speak on behalf of that child so that you don't incur punishment upon an innocent child. Do not do that. If you know that you can fight your battle spiritually, fight it alone. Don't involve children. Don't involve them. Your children are different human beings who have different destinies, who will raise up different nations. Do not involve them in whatever you are passing through. That is where we parents are making that mistakes. I am a Christian. Yes, and my children have been going to church with me since I gave birth to them, and now that they are adults. And tomorrow I will come to dictate to them what I want them to be, not actually what they want for themselves. You see where we are making mistakes. Channel your path towards the right, your child towards the right path. If your child is called the traditional way, all you need to do is to ask questions more about that calling, to be sure of the God that is calling your child. Ask questions. When you ask questions and you get every information you need to know, do not try to go into a spiritual battle with a spirit that you don't see. It is always dangerous. The only thing you can do for your child is let the will of God be done. That is the prayer that you are supposed to be saying for your child. Let the will of God be done. If it's the will of God, in future, that boy will either change to that thing you want for the boy, or in future, the boy will still go for that calling. This is the problem we are having. Whenever people are called the traditional way, they see it as evil. And I want to ask us, if we all see all these traditional people as evil, who patronizes them? I want to know. Because if they are evil, they are supposed to be abolished by now. They are supposed to be stopped. They will no longer be existing. But we still patronize them in the dark, behind, and then when we come out openly, we criticize them. We call them evil. Why are they still existing? Since they are evil, since all of us are holy. And I want to know, how can you, an African, a Nigerian, I'm speaking to us, we blacks, because we have customs and traditions. We are coming from somewhere. We have a root. How can you wake up one morning and all of a sudden you decide that your tradition is evil and you adopt the white man's tradition? Who told you that that white man's tradition is not evil? Who told you that? Who told you that? I call that inferiority complex. That is what I call it. You can adopt both traditions, save it, remove the bad ones, and adopt the good ones. Make use of them. Why do you believe that everything that comes from you, the black, is not good? Why? Before the coming in of Christianity into Nigeria, we have our ways of worship, I believe. I wasn't born then, but I do research. I do research and I do ask questions. We have our way of worship. Now, are you trying to tell me that those our ancestors that worshipped God then the traditional way, that they all will go to hell because they didn't know anything about Christianity? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Or are you trying to tell me that Christianity is the only way to make it to heaven. Are you trying to tell me that? If Christianity is the only way, God wouldn't have allowed other religion to spring up. We all have different ways of worshiping God, and He calls us in different ways. Our problem is that we already have a polluted mindset, an evil mindset. That is why when He calls us in our own way as Africans, we see it as evil. Because you are a Christian, you want everybody to see you with microphone and Bible. Meanwhile, you are not called to preach. You can't even preach. You cannot preach, but that is where you want people to be seeing you. So that when they see you with microphone and Bible, they will say that you are a holy person. That is our problem. If your tradition is bad, doesn't mean that every other tradition is bad. Tradition is our way of life. That's what it is. It is our way of life. There are certain things we believe in, and the white man, when they see us, they laugh at us because to them it's stupid. And there are certain things that they believe in, and to us, they are like robots. That is where we differ. How can you be called to use roots and herbs for healing, and you see it as something bad, as something evil, as something dangerous, but you want to go to school and become a medical doctor so that you equally be curing people, making people's health to be better? What's the difference? This person is using artificial drugs to cure people. This person is using nature to cure people. All of you are still arriving at the same place. These are different callings, if you do not know. They are different callings. Like I told us at the initial stage, calling is not all about becoming a reverend father, a pastor, becoming a preacher, becoming a miracle worker, a healer. It didn't end there. It didn't end there. So parents, mainly, please, my coming up life tonight is to talk to you. Raise up your child the right way. Teach that child the right path. You are not going to fight that child's battle in future. One day you will no longer be here on earth, and that child will start suffering from what you have done, not actually what the child has done. Why? Because some of us will not fight our battles alone. We want to fight and include our children. And then you will die and leave these children. Meanwhile, you have already locked their heads with spiritual battles, and they will start fighting a battle that they do not know how the battle started. And the problem is that you will never open up your mouth to tell these children the truth about where you went to, about what you did in the past, in the present. You will not give them any information, and you will just leave this world. And then they will start suffering for a crime that they never committed. Fight your battles alone. If your child is called the traditional way and you do not like it because you are a Christian, the prayer you owe that child is, let the will of God be done. That is the prayer you owe that child. Whenever you pray, you lift that child up and ask God to make use of that child. Let His will be done in the life of that child. Like I said, if it pleases God to grant you your prayers, that child will grow up to do that which you have in mind, but not you telling that child to do it. But if the child is actually meant to follow that traditional path, your prayers will guide that child. All right? So let's not try to cause problems for the future generation. Let's not try to lure them into doing a lot of things they are not supposed to do, all in the name of trying to solve problems that they didn't know how it started. You are a Christian today, your child can wake up tomorrow and tell you that he or she wants to be a Muslim. You are not going to kill that child. That is the religion that the child has chosen, and might even be better than you in future. All we owe our children is prayers for God's guidance and protection, their safety. That is all we owe for them. Pushing your child to believe what you believe in by force, swearing and taking an oath on behalf of your child is the greatest mistake you will ever make for that child. A lot of our ancestors did that. A lot of women then, maybe they are married for years and no issue, and then they will go to the river and pray and beg and ask for a child and then make a promise. If you give me this child will come to serve you. Why are you making that promise? Why are you making that promise? If you give me this child will serve you in future. Who told you that the child will serve that river? Who told you? That is where we have problems. And this child will grow up tomorrow and will have this calling to work for God in the church. Meanwhile, you have already made a promise to the river goddess that the child will serve the river goddess or the river god. And the child will start from that moment to have problems upon problems, spiritual and physical problems that he or she cannot solve on his or her own because he or she doesn't even know the origin of the problem. Why are you making such? Why are you swearing for your children? Because you do not like this tradition. You do not like this belief. And sometimes we make utterances that cost us our lives. You see this utterance, over my dead body, you should stop it. Because most of the times, all those things will happen. It's going to happen over your dead body. If you want to fight a spiritual battle, fight it alone and end that, let the battle end with you. So that your children will live life the way that God has designed it for them. Fight your battles alone, end that battle with you. Don't transfer that battle to your children. They didn't ask you to bring them into the world, so do not swear for them. Do not swear for them. When they grow up, they might even judge you for making such utterances on their behalf. So I'm going to stop here and I'm going to take questions. If you have any question to ask, you can write down your questions. Affirms. Okay, you say we were lied to by both religious leaders. The Bible was corrupted. Well, I'm not here to judge. If you joined us at the initial stage, you will hear me very well, loud and clear. I'm not here to judge any religion. We have different, everybody has the right to believe in what he or she wants. And whatever you believe in, I respect that, and I expect you to respect mine. I will never call yours names, because I cannot be in your shoe and you cannot be in my shoes. So no religion is good, no religion is bad. I am not here to judge them. Yes, in this statement you made here, I agree with you. All the Bible stories and Quranic stories are misunderstood. Yes, I believe that. They are truly misunderstood. Sometimes we, the preachers, we always quote out of context. Sometimes we preach according to how it will please us, not actually how it's going to better the lives of those we are trying to win their souls. How do you know if you have the call? If you have the call, nobody will tell you. The problem is sometimes some people's callings are being realized too early in life when they were little. Sometimes we realize us late in life. But if you are called spiritually, nobody will tell you. The happenings around you will tell you that you have a spiritual calling, because you are going to be experiencing a lot of, let me put it in a way that you will understand it, a lot of abnormal things happening. You are going to be experiencing it. So many things. When we talk about callings, St. Kings, you asked about how do you know about spiritual, that you have a spiritual calling? How do you know that you are being called spiritually? I gave this topic yesterday, and that was spiritual awakening. That was our topic last night. Spiritual awakening, the things happening to you. And maybe you've been asking yourself secret questions. Why is this thing happening? Why is this like this? Why is this like that? It's happening to you in the midst of every other person. And nobody is experiencing that except you. And these things most of the times are spiritual things that you cannot explain. That is the spiritual awakening we talked about yesterday. When you start noticing those things, it shows that you have calling. Let me use the gift of healing, for example. You may not know that you have this gift of healing, but whenever you come in contact with someone who is sick, before you know it, the person has recovered. When you touch someone who is not well, in no distant time, the person will recover, but you will never notice that until you start hearing people saying that you touched this person and this person got healed. That is when you will now know that there is something that happens to you. Or whenever you go to bed and you dream, and your dream comes to pass. Not once, not twice, like every now and then. If it happens that way, you have that calling. You have the calling. So there are a lot of ways that you can know that you have calling. Maybe you are with people, like I told us yesterday. You are watching, let's use like you are watching a cinema or you're watching a football match with every other person. But instead of you concentrating on that football or the cinema, your mind just wandered into somewhere that you didn't know, and you are seeing another activity taking place. Nowhere. It is only you that saw that activity. No other person saw it. If it happens to you every now and then, you have that calling. You are being called. You are being called. All you need to do is to concentrate more. And for you to concentrate, it would cost you your social lifestyle. I told us that yesterday. It will cost you your social lifestyle. And it's not something you do intentionally. You won't even know when you are doing it. Before you know it, you start withdrawing yourself from a lot of people. You start withdrawing from a lot of activities. That is preparing you spiritually before you can come out to limelight. I'm going to end this live now. But I am very sure, and I hope that you all got what I said. Even if you didn't get the whole message, I want you to take this message. Fight your spiritual battles alone. Do not involve your children in that battle. When you are taking an oath for something that will benefit you now, do not involve your children in that oath. Take that oath by yourself. If you have any spiritual battle that you are fighting, fight it and end it with you, so that it will not transfer to your children. Our ancestors made that mistake, and some of us are still suffering from that mistake. So do not allow your generation to suffer for your mistake now. If your child is called the traditional way and you are Christians, do not reject that calling for that child. You don't know the child's future. Do not incur punishment upon that child and upon yourself. Let the punishment fall on you alone. Leave your child out of that. If your child is called to be a pastor, meanwhile you are a traditional family, do not prevent that child from working for God on his altar. Do not do that. Don't allow that boy to remain on the hospital bed for a crime that he or she didn't commit. If there is anyone to be on that hospital bed, it is you, because you caused that problem. So if you didn't get anything that I say so far, I'm sure you are going to get these statements. Go home with it. Ponder it in your heart. Think about it. If you have been living this way, amend your ways. Fight your battles alone. Fight your spiritual battles alone. If God wants any of your children to join you in that spiritual battle, He's going to equip that child. That is God for you. He's going to equip that child very well. And nobody will tell you, but you're going to notice it in that child's behavior. Before you know it, the child can even rise up to become greater than you, to take over that battle from you. Not you making an oath, taking an oath on behalf of that child. Please, let's correct the mistakes of some of our ancestors so that we don't pass down punishment to the next generation. I'm going to end this live now, and I want to thank you all for joining us this night. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your data. Thank you for being present tonight. And I pray that God will be with you all in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. So I'm going to see us next time, but I do not know when. But until then, I want to say good night and God bless you all.